This episode is brought to you by Huggies Little Movers. It's fun having a baby that loves to move, but it can be challenging to find a diaper that can keep up with them. Huggies Little Movers is designed to move with your baby. With either the double grip strips or the new HugFit 360-degree waistband, you can be confident relying on Huggies Little Movers for your active little ones. Huggies Little Movers, made with double grip strips or the new HugFit 360-degree waistband, so your little double can keep moving like you. Huggies, we got you, baby.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halloween Podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez, and you're listening to episode 29 of our special series, The Dark Record, where we uncover history's eeriest stories, one strange and unsettling case at a time. Speed has always carried a shadow. The faster you go, the more the world blurs, and the closer you feel to the line between life and death. Few men embody that danger more than James Dean. Young, reckless, and already a legend before fate caught up with him on a California highway in 1955. But this story isn't just about Dean. It's about the car he drove, a Porsche 550 Spyder with the nickname Little Bastard. After Dean's fatal crash, the wreck of that sleek silver machine became the center of a legend all its own. Wherever its pieces went, tragedy seemed to follow. Fires, accidents, deaths. The whispers of a curse growing louder with every retelling. The next entry into the dark record, the curse of James Dean's car. Let's begin. James Dean wasn't just another young actor, he was a phenomenon. Born in 1931 in Marion, Indiana, Dean grew up in a small-town setting before moving west to pursue acting. He trained at the Actors Studio in New York, absorbing the method style that would define his performances. By his early 20s, Dean was already recognized for his raw intensity and emotional vulnerability, qualities that set him apart from the polished leading men of the era. Dean exploded onto the screen with East of Eden, earning an Academy Award nomination and immediate stardom. That same year, Rebel Without a Cause cemented his image as the restless, brooding face of a generation that felt misunderstood. His final film, Giant, paired him with Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson, showcasing his ability to embody both charm and inner turmoil. Audiences connected to him deeply. He wasn't just playing roles, he was living them. By the time of his death, James Dean had become a cultural icon, the embodiment of youthful rebellion and the fleeting nature of life. His tragic end only magnified that legacy. By 1955, James Dean was more than just an actor. He was the face of youthful rebellion in America. His career was only beginning, but his fame was meteoric. On screen, he captured the restless energy of a generation that fell out of place in post-war conformity. Off-screen, Dean sought the same rush of intensity. Racing wasn't a pastime for him, it was an obsession. He bought motorcycles, sports cars, and spent weekends pushing them to their limits on the track. That year, he purchased a Porsche 550 Spyder, one of only about 90 ever made. It was a machine designed for racing, lightweight, sleek, and dangerously fast. Dean had the car customized by George Barris, the king of customizers, who gave it its silver paint, red leather interior, and the racing number 130. Across the rear panel, pinstriper Dean Jeffries painted the words that would become infamous, "Little Bastard." From the beginning, the car carried an unsettling aura. Friends were uneasy about it, and actor Alec Guinness would later recall warning Dean that the Porsche looked sinister. He even predicted, eerily, that Dean would be dead within a week if he drove it. Dean brushed it off. The Porsche wasn't just a car to him, it was freedom, speed, and escape from the Hollywood machine. On September 30th, 1955, Dean was driving the Spyder to a race in Salinas, California. Riding with him was his mechanic, Rolf Vuterich, while a truck carrying spare parts followed behind. As they sped along Route 466 near Cholame, California, a 1950 Ford sedan turned left across their path. Dean's lightweight Porsche struck it nearly head-on. The Spyder crumpled, throwing his passenger clear but trapping Dean inside. His neck broke instantly. He was pronounced dead at just 24 years old. The world mourned the loss of a rising star, his legacy sealed in a single, violent moment. But while James Dean's life ended on that lonely stretch of highway, the story of the little bastard was only beginning. What followed was a chain of strange accidents, deaths, and disappearances that convinced many the car carried a curse. The death of James Dean shocked the world, but the story didn't end at the crash site. If anything, the legend of the little bastard was only beginning to take shape. When the twisted wreck of the Porsche was hauled from the highway, it was barely recognizable, crumpled, torn, and broken. Yet the wreckage itself quickly became the focus of fascination. George Barris, the car customizer who had worked on the Spyder, took possession of the remains. Barris was already a master of showmanship, famous for creating some of Hollywood's most iconic cars. He understood that Dean's death had created something larger than a tragedy. It had created a myth. Soon after, Barris began displaying the wreck, billing it as both a cautionary tale and a grim artifact of Hollywood history. The sight of the mangled Porsche, once sleek and alive with speed, drew crowds wherever it was shown. It was Barris who first began to hint that the car carried a curse. He claimed strange accidents followed the Spyder wherever it went. Even while being unloaded from a trailer, he said, the car slipped and broke a mechanic's leg. On another occasion, Barris insisted, a fire mysteriously started in the garage where the wreck was stored. None of these early stories were officially documented, but they circulated widely in newspapers and car magazines. The image of the Spyder as a death machine began to grow. The curse narrative deepened with the help of an eerie anecdote. Just days before the crash, actor Alec Guinness recalled Dean proudly showing him the Porsche outside a restaurant. Guinness said he felt an immediate dread. The car looked sinister, he later wrote in his diary, and he warned Dean that if he got behind the wheel, he would be dead within a week. Dean laughed. Exactly 7 days later, Guinness's words seemed to come true. The combination of Dean's tragic youth, the car's violent end, and the stories that followed created fertile ground for a legend. The wreck was no longer just wreckage. It was an object imbued with menace. Wherever little bastard went, according to Barris and others, trouble followed. Whether these stories were exaggerated, fabricated, or real didn't matter. The narrative of a cursed car was too compelling to ignore, and the legend would only grow stronger as the remains of the Porsche were broken apart, its pieces scattered into new hands. Because if the Spyder was cursed, the curse didn't end with James Dean. It was only beginning to spread.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
If the wreck of the little bastard was cursed, it didn't take long for that curse to spread. After George Barris took possession of the car, he sold or loaned out several of its parts. What happened next gave the legend its darkest fuel. Dr. William Esherick, a physician and amateur racer, purchased the Spyder's engine and other components. He installed the engine in his Lotus 9 and distributed other pieces of the drivetrain among his racing circle. One of those who received parts was fellow driver Troy McHenry. Both men entered their cars, now carrying fragments of Dean's Porsche, into races soon after. The results were chilling. Esherick reportedly lost control of his Lotus and crashed. He survived, but the accident left him shaken. McHenry wasn't as fortunate. While racing at Pomona Fairgrounds, his car veered off the track and slammed into a tree. He was killed instantly. The story spread quickly. 2 men, 2 cars, both carrying parts of Dean's Spyder, and both meeting disaster on the same day. Other stories followed. Barris claimed that 2 tires pulled from the Spyder and resold later blew simultaneously, sending their car off the road. Another tale suggested that the transmission found its way into a different racer's vehicle, which then skidded and overturned. Each of these stories reinforced the belief that the Porsche carried death wherever its pieces went. To skeptics, these were coincidences in a dangerous sport. Racing in the 1950s was notoriously perilous. Cars were light, fragile, and often unstable at high speeds. Crashes were tragically common, and fatalities occurred with alarming frequency. But for those who believed in the curse, the connection was undeniable. The parts of Little Bastard weren't just metal. They were tainted, carrying the same fate that had killed Dean. The idea that fragments of the Porsche were responsible for further deaths transformed the wreck into something more than an artifact. It became a contagion. Anyone who touched it risked being caught in its web. Whether these accidents were chance or curse, the legend was sealed. James Dean's Porsche wasn't finished claiming lives. And the curse didn't end with the races. Even when the car wasn't being driven, the wreck itself seemed to bring trouble. Fires, injuries, and eventually a vanishing act that ensured the little bastard would never rest quietly. Even after pieces of the little bastard scattered into other cars, the wreck itself continued to build its reputation as an object of menace. George Barris, who held on to what remained of the Spyder, made it a centerpiece of traveling safety exhibits. He billed it as a grim warning about the dangers of reckless driving, an artifact meant to scare young motorists straight. Yet, wherever the mangled Porsche went, trouble seemed to follow. Not long after Barris began exhibiting the wreck, strange accidents were reported. In one case, while the car was being moved into storage, it allegedly slipped from its supports and crushed a mechanic's legs. Barris later claimed that during another display, a fire broke out in the garage where the car was kept. Though the blaze destroyed much of the building, the Porsche itself seemed almost untouched, fueling whispers that it was more than just bad luck. In 1959, the wreck was loaned to the California Highway Patrol for use in a safety campaign. On one occasion, the truck hauling the car lost control, and the driver was injured when the wreck shifted violently in its trailer. Another report claimed that during an exhibit, the Spyder's shell broke free and fell, injuring a bystander. Each incident added weight to the idea that the curse remained active, even when the car wasn't on the road. Then, in 1960, the little bastard pulled off its final vanishing act. After years of being displayed across the United States, the wreck was being transported from Miami to Los Angeles. When the truck arrived, the car was gone. No theft was reported, no wreckage was recovered, and no one ever came forward with an explanation. It simply disappeared somewhere on the journey, never to be seen again. This mysterious disappearance only deepened the legend. Some speculated that collectors had stolen the car to hide it away, fearing or perhaps coveting its curse. Others believed the wreck had been quietly scrapped, with officials unwilling to keep promoting an object linked to so much tragedy. But because no proof surfaced, the absence became part of the story. The car that had taken James Dean's life and haunted so many others simply melted into myth. Even today, the whereabouts of the little bastard remain unknown. Some claim fragments of the Porsche still exist in private collections, hidden from view. Others insist the wreck is gone for good, its twisted metal long since destroyed. But the uncertainty only keeps the story alive. Like Dean himself, the car remains frozen in time, forever young, forever tragic, and forever cursed. But in recent years, one piece of the little bastard has proven that not all of it vanished into legend. In 2021, a fully intact transaxle assembly, the component that combines the transmission and rear axle, surfaced after decades in hiding. It had been stored in a wooden crate in rural Massachusetts, unseen by the public for more than 30 years. When the part was unveiled and sent to auction, collectors and historians alike were stunned. Here, at last, was a verifiable fragment of James Dean's Porsche, carrying both the mechanical reality of the car and the weight of its legend. Its reappearance raised as many questions as it answered. Who had kept it hidden for so long? Why did it resurface only then? And perhaps most unsettling of all, did this fragment escape the so-called curse, or was it simply waiting to continue the story? Whether viewed as a valuable piece of racing history or a dangerous relic, the transaxle's discovery proved that the little bastard never completely disappeared. Pieces of it remain, and with them, the shadow of the legend lives on. The curse of James Dean's little bastard is one of the most enduring legends in automotive history. But when we step back from the drama, a more complicated picture begins to emerge. One that raises questions about how much of the story is truth and how much was clever promotion. George Barris, the car customizer who ended up with the Spyder's remains, played a central role in shaping the legend. Barris was not only known for building cars, but also for his showmanship. He was a self-styled king of customizers, famous for designing the Batmobile, the Munster coach, and other television icons. With Dean's Porsche in his possession, Barris had both a cultural artifact and a potential spectacle. Some historians suggest he may have leaned into the idea of a curse as a way to draw attention and crowds. Reports of accidents tied to the car often trace back to Barris himself. Stories of the wreck falling and injuring mechanics, or mysterious fires breaking out in garages, were widely circulated but rarely documented with independent sources. Barris was known to embellish tales for publicity, and skeptics believe the curse narrative was amplified by his flair for marketing. Even the accidents involving parts of the Spyder are not as clear-cut as they first appear. Racing in the 1950s was incredibly dangerous. Cars were lightweight, safety features were minimal, and deaths on the track were tragically common. The crashes of William Eschrich and Troy McHenry could just as easily be explained by the inherent risks of racing as by a curse. To attribute them to Dean's Porsche may be more coincidence than cause. There's also the mysterious disappearance of the wreck in 1960. Barris insisted the car vanished without explanation while in transit, adding a final supernatural flourish to the story. Yet some researchers argue that Barris himself may have orchestrated the disappearance, either to protect the car from further scrutiny or to keep the legend alive by leaving its fate unresolved. Without evidence, the vanishing remains as much theater as fact. To skeptics, the so-called curse of the little bastard reveals less about the supernatural and more about the way stories grow. A tragic death, a mangled car, a series of unrelated accidents. Put together and repeated often enough, they become a legend. In this sense, the curse reflects our tendency to make meaning from chaos, to weave tragedy into a narrative that feels larger than life. Whether or not Barris exaggerated the story, the curse of James Dean's car remains a potent example of how myth, memory, and marketing can turn wreckage into relic. The wreck of James Dean's Porsche may have vanished, but the story of the little bastard never did. In fact, its disappearance only strengthened its place in popular culture. What began as a tragic accident on a California highway has grown into one of the most famous automotive legends of all time, shaping the way people remember James Dean as much as the films that made him a star. The little bastard became more than a car. It became a symbol of youth, speed, and death frozen in time. Dean was only 24 when he died, and his career was just beginning. The Porsche, sleek and dangerous, came to embody the recklessness and energy that defined both the actor and the 1950s generation he represented. For fans, the car was the physical extension of Dean's persona, fast, rebellious, and doomed. The legend of the curse kept the story alive long after the Porsche itself disappeared. Magazines, books, and documentaries have all revisited the tale, often highlighting the eerie prophecy from Alec Guinness or the accidents involving other racers. Ripley's Believe It or Not featured the story, and countless ghost story compilations have included the cursed car among their lists of strange tragedies. In more recent years, podcasts, blogs, and YouTube channels continue to retell the legend, ensuring new generations hear about the little bastard. The car has even lingered in the collector's market. Parts of the Porsche, such as the transaxle, have resurfaced and been sold for staggering sums, hundreds of thousands of dollars. To some, these fragments are dangerous relics tied to death. To others, they are valuable artifacts, pieces of Hollywood and racing history wrapped in mystery. The allure of owning a part of the curse is irresistible to certain collectors, no matter the risk. Pop culture has also leaned into the mystique. The story of Dean's death and the car's curse inspired references in novels, music, and even paranormal lore. It has become shorthand for the idea that objects can carry tragedy, that a machine can become more than metal, that it can absorb fate. In this way, the little bastard is often spoken of in the same breath as other cursed relics, from the Hope Diamond to the Dybbuk box. What makes the Porsche unique, though, is its tie to a man whose life was already iconic. James Dean's image, captured in just 3 films, made him immortal. The curse of his car only deepened that immortality, ensuring his legend would never fade. Whether real or not, the little bastard gave the world one last performance, a final act that blurred the line between history and myth.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
A young man at the height of his fame, gone in an instant, a car built for speed, twisted into wreckage. On their own, these are facts. Tragic, but explainable. Yet people don't want to believe that such a bright star could simply blink out without reason. The curse offers a way to make sense of it, to wrap chaos in the cloak of fate. For believers, the little bastard wasn't just a car. It was a vessel that carried doom. Its sharp lines and racing pedigree seemed too dangerous, too alluring to be harmless. The eerie warning from Alec Guinness, the accidents tied to its parts, the mysterious fire, and the final disappearance. All of these became threads in a story that felt too perfect to ignore. The curse became proof that James Dean's death was not a random event, but part of a larger, darker design. For skeptics, the tale is a case study in how myths are born. A few tragic accidents, a showman with a knack for publicity, a public hungry for stories of doomed icons. Piece by piece, the narrative was built until the car itself became a ghost, more real in rumor than in steel. The lack of evidence, far from killing the legend, only made it stronger. The little bastard lives on precisely because no one can prove what really happened to it. What fascinates me most about this story is how it mirrors our relationship with objects. We often project meaning onto them, believing they can carry memory, luck, or even curses. In truth, the Porsche was just metal and rubber, like any other car. But in the minds of those who survived Dean and the millions who idolized him, it became something else, a relic infused with the energy of his life and death. It is easier, in some ways, to believe the car was cursed than to accept that tragedy can strike without reason. Whether you see the little bastard as a cursed object or as the centerpiece of a clever publicity tale, its power is undeniable. Nearly 70 years later, people still whisper about it, still search for fragments, still retell its story. In that way, the car achieved what Dean himself seemed to embody: the defiance of time, the allure of danger, and the haunting truth that life can end in an instant. That brings us to the end of episode 29 of The Dark Record. We followed the twisted path of James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder, the little bastard. From a Hollywood icon's final drive to the accidents, fires, and disappearance that followed, the car has become more than a machine. For some, it is cursed. For others, it is a story shaped by coincidence and showmanship. Either way, it remains one of the most enduring legends tied to fame, tragedy, and fate. Remembered, retold, and now added to the record. Next time, we turn to one of literature's strangest intersections with real life, a chilling coincidence that spans decades and the open sea. In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe wrote of a shipwreck and a cabin boy named Richard Parker. 46 years later, a real shipwreck would echo that tale in unnerving detail. We'll explore the Poe-Richard Parker coincidence. Until then, I'm Lyle Perez, and this has been the Halloween Podcast presenting The Dark Record. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps keep the show alive and weird. You can also explore sources, extras, and more at our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Halloween Podcast or at our website, thehalloweenpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes on the shadows. And remember, speed may have taken James Dean, but the curse kept driving. Have a good night.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.